A very warm welcome to a brand new season of IDFC First Bank Presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 12 with me, Ritwika Gupta. Now, it's been 12 seasons of empowering entrepreneurs, recognizing excellence and telling the stories of the unsung heroes of India's economy, the MSMEs. This is India's longest running and only platform that discusses why MSMEs are at the core of India's economic evolution. Most importantly, a powerful wave of aspiration is emerging within numerous MSMEs across India. They're dreaming big and are aspiring to explore global markets. What they seek is not only support but also a partnership in their journey towards global success. And that's exactly what we are here for. Against this backdrop, we have our new theme this season, Powering Entrepreneurs for the Global Stage. But first, here's a quick glimpse of the years gone by here on Leaders of Tomorrow.
Can be more important. Every single
we are the largest.
I believe that entrepreneurs now the largest.
It's like a loan being given.
One doesn't.
Such a large part of my career.
From exclusive expert interviews to thought-provoking discussions, Leaders of Tomorrow has been the launchpad for the unsung heroes of India's economy, the MSMEs. Over 11 seasons and more than 2,000 episodes, we have seen the birth of groundbreaking ideas, stories of resilience, and the joy of unimaginable success. From technology disrupting industries to traditional businesses embracing change, Leaders of Tomorrow has delivered insights spanning all sectors. But we don't just stop at conversations. Over the years, we've provided businesses with the tools they need: knowledge, education, mentorship, and networking opportunities. Through our ground events across the country, we have fostered a vibrant community of entrepreneurs and unlocked ideas that have potential to change the world. Our celebrated annual awards serve as a national platform for showcasing brilliance, where dreams become reality and small businesses blossom into global giants. And now, as we embark on a new chapter, the bar has been raised higher. The world is rapidly changing and it's time to explore global aspirations. What will it take for India's MSMEs to make it on the world stage? What is the roadmap to global dominance? Join us this season as we answer these questions and empower India's leaders for success on the global stage. I'm now joined by Mr. Mihir Bhatt. He's the Managing Editor at Times Network and Chief Business Officer at Times Influence. Hi, Mihir.
Hi.
Mihir, you have seen LOT as an initiative, over the past many seasons. Tell me, what are the qualities, that really define Leaders of Tomorrow as an initiative?
See, I think LOT actually is a path-breaking initiative. And I'll tell you why. Because, today everybody talks about Atmanirbhar Bharat and Make in India and all of that. But when Leaders of Tomorrow started, which was, I think, more than a decade back, that time entrepreneurship was not something which was, I would say, the most urgent requirement of the society. In that day and age, when India was still climbing the ladders of global economies and it was obviously not in the top 5, to identify an opportunity and to realize the fact that for India to continue to grow, we need to create enough jobs. And to create enough jobs, you need to create enough entrepreneurs. I think it's a very critical responsibility. And I would give that credit to Leaders of Tomorrow that they identified this need gap and started this initiative, more than a decade back.
Yeah.
And since then, obviously it has been a long journey, but I think what we must not forget is that Leaders of Tomorrow, in a way, has been part of this transformation that India has seen as a society, as an economy, and I would say as a country. So, it's very closely, I would say, weaved in the whole fabric of India's entrepreneurial journey to that extent. And if you look at the Indian economy, the transformation that has happened, I would say it has turbocharged in maybe last 10 years. And LOT has been part of that transformation. So, I would call it a path-breaking initiative, transformative initiative. And something which can actually, which is very informative also, and I'm sure, you all have won various awards to that effect. But I think it is one of those few shows which has evolved over a period of time and has kept pace with the changing needs of the society and economy particularly.
Absolutely. We are the longest running show for MSMEs. And speaking of MSMEs, tell me, how do you, make sense of their significance, and their role, especially in their path, in India's path towards Amritkal?
I mean, Amritkal obviously is, that term has really caught everybody's attention. And I think it's very important also because you have to look at it in two perspectives. One is the global economy and the concept of globalization itself is going through a major transformation, is going through a radical change. And it was already happening thanks to, I would say, the trade war between US and China. But somewhere, I think, the pace of it increased post-COVID, where the world realized that they need to decentralize their supply chains, they need to de-risk their, businesses. And I think it coincided with the rise of India in terms of an alternate and a more stable, more secured, more predictable, democratic economic environment was what world was looking for.
Right.
Having said that, when a sector, or I would say when a bloc is contributing almost 30% of a large economy like India, you cannot ignore it. So for India to actually achieve its true potential in its so-called Amritkal, it's not going to happen if only 2 or 3 sectors are firing.
Sure.
For example, let's say IT might be doing great, or infrastructure might be doing great, or maybe other services might be doing great. Unless MSME as a block starts performing and starts firing on all cylinders, India will not really achieve its true potential. So I think it's very critical, and somewhere I think government realizes, because they have been doing a lot of, I would say, support and hand-holding activities, especially COVID onwards. And there are a lot of loans and a lot of schemes which are available. But I think at the cornerstone of all of it, I think it's the recognition of the true potential of entrepreneurship, which is in the DNA of Indians.
Right.
So to that extent, I would say that if the MSME sector fails to achieve its true potential, then sadly, India will also miss its mark in its Amritkal.
Absolutely agree. And today we are launching our new season, season 12, with a brand new theme.
Congratulations for that.
Congratulations to you as well. Powering entrepreneurs for the global stage. Tell me, what does this theme mean to you? How do you think it is relevant for today's time, for today's entrepreneurs?
See, I think it's all about, I don't think there could have been a better theme than what you have selected for Leaders of Tomorrow. Simply because today everyone is talking about India's global ambition. Be it political stage, be it geopolitical situations, economic clout, summits like G20, India is the flavor. You go to Davos, you see maximum presence from Indian companies, Indian corporates, even Indian policymakers. You don't really see that many policymakers and corporate leaders, hobnobbing over there from the West. So India is the flavor. Now, because Indians are having global ambition, somewhere it is quite obvious that the MSMEs will also have global ambition. More and more global companies and MNCs will start looking at India as one of their major supply hubs. When that happens, automatically they will start looking at Indian MSMEs to fill the gaps in their supply chains, I would say. That is the opportunity, because if you look at the job requirement in India, and I'm again coming back to jobs, because we have one of the youngest population, they need enough skills and they need right kind of jobs to tap into their skills, because only then the economy can sustain, or the growth can sustain. If you look at it from that point of view, the growth in tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities, or I would say in hinterland, will be driven by smaller businesses, which are essentially maybe in the bracket of MSMEs, or at some point they will be in the bracket of MSMEs. So the MSMEs which are already in that bracket will have to grow. They will move up. So the second lot comes, in the MSME bracket. So this transformation or this growth will continue. Eventually, it will happen that some of these MSMEs, which are maybe today listed, non-listed, will become part of Sensex and Nifty. Some of those companies will eventually go global, or at least definitely a regional force. And we have already seen that happening with a lot of MSMEs who now have presence, I would say, in Middle East and Dubai and all. So it's the natural progression, I would say, or the natural evolution of Indian entrepreneurship. So I think it's, more than just a theme. It's a statement that you are making with this theme, and it's a vision and an ambition that you are giving to all the entrepreneurs that yes, they can do it. Couple of years back, I remember one of the themes for Leaders of Tomorrow Awards was SME to Sensex, and that was still, Sensex is still an Indian index. Tomorrow, when you talk about global stage, obviously you are opening up that horizon for them.
Yeah.
And I hope you will do that job well in terms of, hand-holding all the entrepreneurs and guiding them.
Absolutely. Well, cheers to that. Thank you so much for speaking to us.
Thank you.
It's time for a quick break here. We'll be back shortly. Stay tuned. Kickstarting our brand new season with a discussion that puts India in the spotlight, exploring India's robust economic growth, delving into factors fueling this momentum and its implications for MSMEs. Joining me are some of the most influential voices in the industry. Let me first introduce our panelists. Chandrakant Salunkhe, founder and president, SME Chamber of India; Arundhati Bhattacharya, chairperson and CEO, Salesforce; Niranjan Hiranandani, co-founder and managing director of Hiranandani Group; Manoj Kumar Vijai, managing partner, Mumbai and head risk advisory, KPMG India; and Dipali Goenka, CEO and managing director at Welspun Living Limited. I want to quickly welcome all my panelists. Thank you so much for joining us today. My first question, and this is a common question to all my panelists, it is about the India story. Now, India is the world's fastest growing major economy today. And this year, RBI forecasted, India's GDP to grow at a commendable 7.7%, while the World Bank also projected, the same at 6.6%. So I want to kickstart this discussion by diving into some of the key macro factors, that's, fueling this growth, especially in the last couple of years. So by way of opening remarks, I'd like to ask all of you, what is propelling India's growth? Let's start with you, Mr. Hiranandani.
Wonderful story to see 7.7% in spite of the fact that there are headwinds, in spite of the fact that America is at the back foot, Japan is on the back foot, China is on the back foot, Europe is completely in the back foot.
Yeah.
If you look at it in comparison, I think we have huge advantage in taking things forward for our country. In terms of the challenges and the negatives, we have the headwinds in terms of petroleum. I think that's a big factor. Sure. The Middle East war is certainly going to be challenging with all our transport. And I think the growth part of the story is probably the leadership that Mr. Narendra Modi brings to the table. And I think the change has definitely taken place in terms of the growth story across the board. Could I have imagined growth of 35 kilometers of national highway per day, Mumbai city adding 300 kilometers of metro, when we had 190 kilometers for the last 65 years. The Cross Harbour Bridge going across the sea, 16.5 kilometers across the sea of the Atal Bridge connecting to the new area. So I think we have had it right in terms of the direction. God has also been with us. Good weather has definitely taken a side. And the balancing between East and West has worked for us as of now. What the geopolitics is there for tomorrow, nobody knows. But I think we have done fantastically. Industry, trade and commerce has certainly also taken off. And the stock markets prove it all right.
That's right, absolutely. I want to bring in Ms. Arundhati here.
I think there are a number of factors that is fueling this growth. One, of course, is our demography. The fact that, 61% of our people are still below the age of 35. I think we have an average age of 28.2 at this point of time. I understand that by 2030, we'll probably have about 1 billion people who will be in the workforce. And we'd probably be supplying 25% of the talent worldwide that is needed for various jobs. You also must remember that in India, we have a very large English-speaking pool of people. plus the fact that we are graduating almost 1 million engineers per year. So if you look at the depth of the talent pool available in India, it's enormous. And that's one of the major drivers for growth. The other thing is the fact that, we are very quickly seeing an increase in the middle class people. And the understanding is that we are at about 31% now. I think the middle class is also growing by 6-7% per year. And we are expecting that in another 3 years, we should be at about 38%. By 2047, we are actually expecting that there will be more than 1 billion people that can be termed as middle class in India. Now, obviously, with so many people coming up the economic ladder, there is going to be demand. And demand is something that's very important if you are to drive any economy. So to that extent, the moment there is demand, there will be supply, there will be investment, there will be further growth. So you get into what is called a virtuous cycle. And powering all of this, behind all of this, I think is the fact that our digital economy is growing really, really fast, powered by the digital public infrastructure, which is something unique.
Mr. Chandrakant?
See, growth story is very fantastic, and Vikasit Bharat is a dream project, led by Honorable Prime Minister, and especially it is a good level playing field we will given to the MSME sector, because MSME sector is a backbone of Indian economy, and I'm sure that the confidence among the entrepreneurs are growing very well. And definitely, whatever the project you have shared by IMF or the World Bank, it will be done only by the MSME sector, especially for the manufacturing industry. Since we are looking at a lot of headwinds, as I said earlier, but we have to focus now the transformation. If the transformation, then the performance definitely will be there. So this is my thought. Thank you.
So I think we're talking about India, and I think I would say the India's perspective from the global perspective as well, like being in that position of exporting to more than over 50 countries across the globe. I think India stands a great opportunity. I mean, I have been in a forum where China has been there and the other countries have been there. India is become that story. And I think India holds its prime now. Even with the outsourcing destination, the supply chain key, opportunity that, all the global retailers are looking at India. So I can say easily that, as India is growing and, how India is evolving, I think India can look at being the great global sourcing opportunity from, for the world. And also, as we see our GDP growth and how the India is, evolving in the terms of consumption, I think India will become a great consumption story as well, because you're seeing the biggest population here, highest consumption market. Apart from that, I think the whole digital consumption that you have in this country, I think it is absolutely mind-boggling. So I think for me, India is a big story, and I think the world is looking at us.
Absolutely. Manoj?
Thank you, Ritwika. Thank you for having me here. I think most of my co-panelists have covered quite a bit, but just to put it in a perspective, I feel if I can put it, the 3 big Ds, which I may just incrementally add, which is a advantage for India is the demographic thing that is there in India, right? The kind of population, the young population that is available, which also opens markets for consumers, etc. Second thing is also the whole digital transformation that we have embarked on as in India. I think the kind of smartphones and the availability across India that is there is also driving some of the elements around that. And the point was mentioned, the destination India for some of our global players outside it's attracting right now in India. Geopolitics is not helping others, so we are taking advantage of that. I think the policies that have been put through in the last few years has been very meaningful in driving some of the foreign investors as well. Sure. And the most significant above everything is the infrastructure development, which I think already Mr. Hiranandani covered. So I think that is what I would think is, and it will remain for some time. That's my take actually on this.
No, absolutely. We'll touch on digitization, manufacturing, and a lot more. But I want to bring back the focus to the MSME sector. When we talk about India's MSMEs, it contributes approximately 30% of India's GDP, 40% of exports, and it employs over 11 crore people in India. How do you think India's MSMEs will define the roadmap, for a new rising India? Chandrakantji, I want to bring you in here, especially in light of some of the pressing issues, that MSMEs have been facing, like the 45-day payment rule. Tell me, what are some of the steps that need to be taken to empower smaller businesses in the country?
See, in India, currently there are at least 50% are manufacturing industries in MSME sector. And there are a lot of issues particularly faced by the MSME sector, that is not having the reasonable rate of industrial land, rate of interest is very high, very costly. Easily skilled manpower is not available, and they are facing problem to enter into emerging market. Government of India is bringing a lot of schemes, policies, but the policies and schemes are not reaching to the end level. This is one problem. Second thing, banks are also not understanding the MSMEs of potentiality, and they are not giving a helping hand to MSME sector. Currently 6.33 MSMEs are in India, and we have a record that at least 5 lakh MSMEs are enjoying bank finance from them. And what about the others? That is one. Most importantly, we are facing problem because of the imports also. And second thing, technology, because we have a technology, but that is a little bit an outdated technology. Now, after the pandemic, so many MSMEs have started acquiring the advanced technology, but it is not affordable. So, for SME Chamber of India perspective, we are educating, encouraging, and giving hand-holding to acquire the latest market, acquire the latest technology, and also providing the support to get a funding from banks.
Right. Dipali, I want to bring you in here, Tell me specifically for the textile sector, how do you integrate with MSMEs? That's one. And also, what role do you see them playing, in the rising India?
See, I'll tell you, MSMEs and SMEs are a bedrock for the Indian industry and for textiles. I mean, for us as well. I think today we work with more than 200 SMEs. And let me give you, and I think an example is very, very important. I suppose the infrastructure, there would be a lot of gaps, a lot of opportunities to evolve, right? But I think as a corporate, I think we need to see how we can bring them into the fore. Because they are going to be the bedrock for this evolving country that we're talking about and the great opportunity. Secondly, I think getting into the fore of technology is our opportunity to take them on and evolve them. And today, when we talk about the whole blockchain, you're talking about digitization, sustainability as a very, very important index. We actually have them in that fore because I think that's the only way forward. And let me tell you, they are the ones who are going to actually mark this century for the growth of our country. And I think it's going to be imperative. How do we support them here?
Absolutely. Mr. Hiranandani, do you agree they're going to mark the century of our country?
Well, I think MSMEs are going to actually take it to the next level. Housing, for instance, in the field in which we work, we deal with 260 items of inputs that come into the real estate sector. And barring the 5 major items like steel, cement and other aspects of it, the rest of it all comes from SMEs. So this. Second, we are a very highly labor-intensive industry. So in reality there, but what Dipali said, the skill sets, or even Mr. Salunkhe mentioned about, the skill sets are just not available. Let me give you an example. If I wanted good skill sets, whether from the SME sector or the labor sector in my industry, 15 years ago, if I wanted 100 labor, I would get 250. Today, when I want 100 skilled labor, I don't get 20. So in reality, on one side, we have unemployment. And we say we want to resource from the small scale sector. The small sector don't have the skill set to run their sector. Forget being able to get labor for myself when I'm getting resources from it. So when I'm ordering things like aluminium, stuff like that, which are done by SMEs, they're complaining that we don't have labor to be able to complete your job on time. It's not the material. It's not the power. It's just the skill sets. So I think what we've been talking about is fantastic, that the SMEs are going to really be important to us, and they are. But if we don't fill the gaps in terms of it, skill sets being one of them, the others have been mentioned in terms of it already, technology being the other thing, I think SMEs just can't take off. So the best part is they are a wonderful resource as far as India is concerned, and with the demographics being there, unemployment on one side, zero skill sets availability which is there in the marketplace, somewhere this gap is too big. It's huge. It's unbelievable. And I think we need to focus on it. So MSMEs, fantastic for the next couple of years. But if you don't bridge the gap which is there, then there will be an unfulfilled gap which we will have to worry about. And then the goal my view is, if MSMEs really do well, and of course, as Dipali just mentioned, talked about big industry doing exports, we just will not be able to compete with the world if this gap remains. So we have to close this gap, and I promise you, 7-8% will be 10% GDP growth in 1 year from today. But you have to bridge the gap of what you do. The second aspect of it, which is very, very difficult for MSMEs or even large industry or even for us, is logistic cost. If you compare logistic cost in India and logistic cost in China, logistic cost in China per item that you're buying is about 7%. We are close to 13-14%. When we get all the transportation, highways, roads, multimodal transport, airports, waterways and all done, we are hoping in the next few years we will be close to 9 or 10, which is still far away from the best in the world. So if you want to compete with the best in the world and compete and be China +1 or China +100, I think what we really need to do is fill up all these gaps. MSMEs are extremely important, but if you don't concentrate on the gaps, then it will be a wish list we are not going to be able to attain. That's my fear.
I think the important aspect, and I think we could leverage the SEZs and the CEZs here, which actually is an opportunity for the MSMEs. And a lot of countries have done that. You look at Sri Lanka, you look at the others as well. I think creating that SEZ, which actually, so when your logistic costs also get mitigated there, because you have the entire ecosystem getting developed here. And I also feel here that along with the government, I think corporates like us will also have to work towards creating that opportunity for the MSMEs as well.
Absolutely. Manoj, your take on this when it comes to, opportunities for MSMEs, what do you think, according to, will provide the necessary impetus, for growth for this sector?
Yeah, so I think many things actually, and a lot of things are being done. And what we just heard, there's a potential to do a lot more. I think what would the MSMEs need actually? They need capital. So access to capital, getting incentives about incentivizing banks, etc., to also probably lend them. While a lot of it is happening, there was scope to do much more on that. Making the skill sets actually for them to compete in the global world requires a different mindset actually. How do we develop that? How do we develop some of these SMEs and develop the skill sets in them? Then the whole thing about infrastructure development, to some extent, the SEZ point which was mentioned, I think the clusters that come up can make a big difference actually. So, as far as I'm concerned, I think it is, if I can just put MSME, it's the most significant actually manufacturing enterprises, I would put it. So that's how we should define it, and they will be required to be supported by government policies, and some of them are already happening, but go forward, I believe, for making it globally competitive and attracting some of the things which have gone away. I think it will be very essential that we get that as well.
Sure, absolutely. I want to bring in Ms. Arundhati here.
So, India has always been a land for entrepreneurs. From many, many centuries, we've been a place where people have sort of realized that they need to depend upon themselves in order to really thrive. And that's why you see many of the industries that have come up from the grassroots, whether it be the IT industry, whether it be the pharma industry, whether it be the services, various other services industries. Most of these have come up because, the people with entrepreneurial ability have gotten over there and have started working. So if you look at the startup ecosystem, I think we are the second or third largest startup ecosystem in the world. And out of every 10 unicorns, one belongs to India. So to that extent, again, I believe that the MSMEs have a great role to play in our country. It's not going to be a few handful of very large corporates that are going to create a huge amount of employment in this country. It won't work like that. We are a kind of a distributed kind of an economy where, the MSMEs play a very big part in ensuring that they are bringing about innovation, in ensuring that they are employing 8, 10, 20, 30, going up to hundreds of people as they grow in size and in scope. And therefore, the MSMEs are something that we really believe will drive the growth of India.
It's time for another break here. We'll be back shortly. Stay tuned. Welcome back to IDFC First Bank Presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 12. This is our launch episode, and tonight we are decoding the India story in this insightful panel discussion. So, India enjoys healthy relations with most major economies. And, like I think all of you mentioned, India is attracting large investors, large companies to set up factories here as well. This is, of course, you mentioned, expanding the manufacturing sector, boosting exports, and there will be a trickle-down impact on MSMEs as well. I want to bring back the focus on India's potential as a global manufacturing hub. What role will it play in India's growth story? Dipali, perhaps we'll start with you this time.
So let me tell you something here. For me and for textiles, we actually know India primarily as an agriculture country, right? Textile after that actually also employs the maximum people in the country. And as we look at India, and I can tell you with the experience that I've had in the global arena as well, people are looking at India for outsourcing. People are committing. For example, Walmart has committed $10 billion to source out of India. You have the Uniqlos of the world. They are committing sourcing out of India. So India is becoming that opportunity. I think it's about how we leverage this and take that forward.
Mr. Hiranandani, I want to come to you. It's been 8 years since the Make in India initiative, was put in place. How do you think we have fared so far?
Some fantastic, some okay, some bad. I would say that in a large area where government intervention has taken up positively, we just talked about the PLI scheme and manufacturing. I think that has really attracted the most competitive elements where we thought we would not be able to get. In the other segments, I think still we are very much behind. And if you're looking at resources of, let's say, coal, we're still importing coal. We have enough coal in India to supply to the world, and we are still importing coal. There are challenges where I think resources like gas and petroleum and all the other discoveries can be more intensified, and I think that opportunity is there. What is fantastic is the services industry. I think IT and other segments of the country have ruled the roost all over the country, and manpower. We have CEOs from India going all over the world, doctors going, nurses going, and all these things. And I believe this year I saw some statistic which showed more than 100 billion have been received by India from NRIs who serve overseas and bring money into India. So human resources seem to be on the upswing.
Lots of people, are coming back to India as an opportunity as well. So I think I would say that is a huge opportunity.
Manoj, I would like to get your take on this. What do the statistics say?
So according to me, I think the direction what the government has shown over the last few years in terms of creating certain infrastructural kind of facilities, creating certain ease of doing business, I think that is also very critical for people to come in here. So I think the roadmap is there. We are seeing a platform created. We have heard about Apple coming in. We are now hearing Google wanting to make its phones here, etc. But I think the next step, if you have to sustain this, one will need to actually make sure that we are able to bring the skill sets of all these people up to a certain level. The adoption of technology, for example. How do we bring the finance to them to adapt that? how do we train them to the quality standards which global world wants from India? Otherwise, what we created can all go waste, if we don't address that bit. So that is very critical. And I think most importantly, I think the transformation that is required, what I've seen actually, and we are consultants, so we see it, the MSMEs are actually ready to adapt to change. Sure. We are seeing that directional change as well in terms of both digital or technology changes, or in terms of adapting best practices to try even international standards of reporting, etc. There is more amenability of adapting that. Plus, I think some of the benefits which I think government keeps giving, if we can continue on the PLI schemes, or some of the benefits, the tax incentives in clusters or SEZs, etc., if we continue, I think we will see a boom of that. And it's not too far when we'll become the global the destination for the global manufacturing. Yeah.
Great. Mr. Chandrakant?
See, Indian Prime Minister Mr. Modi has taken initiative to make in India concept. And that dream project, fulfilled by the large industry and SME sector. In last 8 years, you must be seeing there is a huge, manufacturing activities happening in India. Yeah. And similarly, this is beneficial to industry, particularly local industry, because supply chain is increasing definitely, and also we are understanding the requirement of the local and global market. I request and I suggest and educate my MSME members that you produce the product which is for a global market, not for local market, so that it will be, the quality and quantity can be enhanced. Look at the China, look at the other countries. They are focusing on quantity and quality. So this is a time now to, improve the quality, quantity and competitiveness. Another point I want to suggest, since we are talking about leaders of tomorrow, we want to create the leaders from the MSME sector who can convert into emerging corporate. See, usually what happened, micro and tiny 99% from the 6.33 crores. When this tiny and micro will become a small, and small will become a large or a medium size, and medium size will be converted into mid corporate. So this is a big question now in front of government as well as the banking sector, even companies like corporate companies like this, because corporate can support the MSMEs to grow more. And government should bring the level playing field, and bankers provide a fuel. Then only this growth engine will go fast.
Right. I'm going to stay with you, Mr. Chandrakant, and I want to open this up as well. But coming to you first, unlike startups and larger enterprises, MSMEs listing themselves in the public forum is quite rare. But there have been reports, recently of more and more smaller enterprises, expected to list. So what is your take on this? What do you think needs to be done, to actually encourage more and more MSMEs to list?
Thank you for this question, because the SME stock exchange advocated by me, and I took more than 2 years to come on the picture. Usually now 1,000 companies are listed in MSME stock exchange, but there are fear amongst the MSME that whether our data, our business will come in a public domain. But I suggest and educate the MSME that capital market entry is always best for them, because they are developing the credibility and creditworthiness for all the stakeholders, say suppliers, buyers, even foreign companies. But somehow Indian MSMEs are not yet understand the potentiality of entering into capital market. Look at the capital market growing so much very well. This is a huge opportunity where MSME can generate the additional alternative finance, alternative investment for them, and showcase their credibility and creditworthiness for the local and global markets.
Manoj, I want to get you involved here. Tell me, we have been seeing emerging technologies like AI and blockchain, right, that present immense opportunities. But how can smaller businesses really leverage these technologies, whether it is in their, production efficiency, their workflow, what's your take on that?
No, so to some extent, this is already happening, I must say, a long way to go though. But let's look at AI, for example. And if you have automated processes, or you have robots who can do your manufacturing certain tasks which are routine, you can save a lot of time and effort and the cost, right? So which benefits again SMEs themselves. So I think a lot of awareness needs to be created about how the technology can benefit them rather than running away from it, and the fear factor of AIs and that comes across. But I think a lot of things can be positive for this industry. And in India today, actually, if we have some advantage compared to global world is this whole emerging technologies, the whole digital infrastructure as we talked about. We got the best of the GST system which is there. We got the Aadhaar thing which is there. And I think overall also whatever Digi Yatra you take it, right? We are much advanced compared to any other place. So if we are able to educate and make these SMEs aware about the potential it can have, link up to them with the hundreds and thousands of platforms which are available, the mobile platforms, etc. The kind of data analytics ability these kind of apps can show you will automatically also give you insights. For example, if you have a call center and you have, use AI to the task to deal with the call center related issues or the complaints or whatever come in, the kind of efficiency you can bring in and the response time that can help could be another area which can help. Right. Let's say if you're a customer kind of you have a product for customers, and if you are able to use the AI to get the analytics done, you're able to understand the customer behavior better, and in turn actually will be able to more focused in terms of where your sales could be.
That's right, absolutely. I want to bring in Miss Arundhati here.
Unlike what was thought of before, that there is a big bar to entry. With all of these types of companies that are coming up, and I am part of one such where IT is given as a service. So software as a service, you have platform as a service. So many of these are now not capital intensive. Yes, you still have to pay for them. There is an OPEX for it. But the CAPEX that is required, that bar has come down. And as you know, India is really, poor on resources. It's poor on capital. It is possible to do repetitive small amounts of expenses, but if you have to put in a huge amount of expense in order to get very high costing servers and things like that in order to start off your digital journey is very difficult to undertake. So to that extent, I think the bar has been lowered as to how much of current technology you can absorb by ensuring that the capital expense that is required is lowered and taken out. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is look at the DPI infrastructure today. There are 3 or 4 main issues, rather main planks to the main towers to that whole thing. One, of course, is the Unique Identification Authority of India. Today, I'm told that they are doing something like 80 million authentications per day. As you are aware, most of the Indians, they do have a unique identification based on biometrics. And this is absolutely primary to any economic activity, because what this allows you to do is it allows you to have a bank account. Now, it was very difficult earlier for us to do financial inclusion because we didn't know how to say that A is A and A is not somebody else. And the reason for that is there was no way of identifying the person. Today, because biometrics are unique to each person, we are able to ensure that when we say A is A, then that person is A. It is nobody else. Doesn't matter if the address has changed, doesn't matter if the spelling of the name has changed, but we know from the biometrics that this person is who we are saying is this person. Now, that has enabled this increase of bank accounts, and not only that, it has created a platform whereby much of the informal economy can now be formalized. The way that we are leveraging identity, the way that we are leveraging the payment system, the way that we are leveraging data, all of this then opens up the field to many other things that can be done across the board.
Completely out of time on tonight's episode of IDFC First Bank Presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 12, but we'll be continuing our panel discussion tomorrow. Don't forget to tune in. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.